guys, welcome back to another video, and today's video we will be testing out two palettes, hence why I have different eye makeup on. The first palette is the Aladdin Your Wish Is My Command eyeshadow palette, which I purchased from Primark. It retails at £8, but I got it for £3, so that is on this eye for you guys. And the second one is the Primark The Little Mermaid Vibe with the Tide eyeshadow palette, which is on this eye. Again, it retails for £8, but I bought it for £3. Primark are having a really big sale on their makeup, particularly Disney. So yeah, I'm going to do a review of both palettes and two unique looks for you. So if you want to see my honest opinions on these palettes, then keep on watching. So I'm going to quickly do my base makeup, which is my Urban Decay All Nighter Foundation in the shade 0.5, and I'm going to pop that all over my face. And then I'm taking the Makeup Revolution concealer and just going to pop that on the high points of my face and blend all of this out with a beauty blender. Next, I'm going to contour my face, and I'm taking this Boohoo Nudes contour palette and this middle shade. And I'm just going to contour my cheekbones, temples, nose and jawline. So now I am taking this Makeup Obsession palette, and I'm taking these two end shades of the top row. And I'm just going to quickly fill in my eyebrows, because, you know, eyebrows. So guys, moving on to creating some looks, and the first one is with the Aladdin Your Wish Is My Command palette, which is a 12 shade palette. I'm going to pop that on this eye and the Little Mermaid one on the other eye. So this comes in a tin, which I really like, because I feel like the shadows are a little bit more protected. The tin packaging is absolutely gorgeous. They've got that Arabian Night mandala feel, which I really like. So this palette is a mixture of matte, shimmer and sort of more glittery shadows, which I really like the diversity, and this shade in particular, Dead Dream, is very similar to that of the Urban Decay Game of Thrones combo Stormborn shade that is in that palette. So if you don't want to spend 45 quid on that palette, you could always buy this one, and the shades are similar. So the first shade I'm going to go into is the shade called Dreamer, which is this sort of really pale nude, and I'm going to pop that in my crease and blend right up to my eyebrow. And then the next shade is going to be a Whole New World, which is this browner tone. Again, pop that in my crease and blend it in with that first shade, just to create a transitional colour for the rest of the shadows. The third shade I'm going to go into is called Princess, which is this pinky purpley tone. And I'm going to pop that in my crease and blend out that outer corner, just to create more of a smoky look. The next shade is a shade that I love in this palette. It drew me to this palette, but then was a little bit of a letdown. And it's a shade called Genie. I'm going to pop that on the outer portion of my lid. I had to pack this on, so it's chronic which is why it was a letdown, because I thought it was going to be a really bright, bold shade, and it really wasn't. But other than that, that's the only really fault that I found with this palette so far. The next shade is called Shooting Star that I'm going to use, and I'm going to pop that on the inner portion of my lid and blend in with the Genie shade. I got a very small amount of fallout with this shade, which I'm not too mad about. I mean, it's a cheap palette, but other than that, wasn't an issue for me. So yeah, I'm going to pop that on my lid and add a little bit of sparkle to my lid area. The next shade I am going to go into is called Young Love, which is this plum shade. I'm going to pop that along the outer portion of my lower lash line and blend in with the outer corner of my upper lid, and just really pop that on. I'm mixing that with Princess as well, just to create the same look. And then I'm going in with the shade Make a Wish, which is this like foresty green, and I'm going to pop that along the rest of my lower lash line. And then in the inner corner, I'm going to use Pure Magic to add a bit of gold to the look. I'm going to apply liner and mascara off camera, and there you go, that's that eye look. So moving on to the next palette, and it's the Little Mermaid vibe with the Tide palette. I like the shape of the packaging. I like the fact that they've popped a little illustration of Ariel on it. However, I don't really like the name, but you can't always win. Opening it up, I like the fact that all the shadows are shell-shaped. However, I feel like this makes them smaller, and they are a mixture of mattes, shimmers, and sort of the pressed glittery type powders, very similar to the Aladdin palette. And the shades, again, are very similar to that of the Aladdin palette. So I would recommend buying one or the other, not buying both. So, the first shade I'm using is this nudie shade, which I'm going to pop in my crease and blend up to my eyebrow. And then I'm going to go in with this browner toned shade and do the same again, just to create some sort of transitional shade. The next colour I'm going into is this more muted purple shade. I'm going to pop that in my crease and try and blend that out. I've noticed going along these shades aren't as pigmented as I would hoped for, which is kind of a bit of a letdown. Also, there is so much kickback in this pan, it is unreal, and I don't like kickback. So the next shade I'm going into is this plumber deeper purple shade. And again, I'm going to pop that in my crease and try to really darken up this crease. I don't think I will, but it's worth a shot. So there's a little bit of fallout with this palette as well, which is gutting. Like, you know, I don't like fallout. So anyway, the next shade I'm going to go into is this really rich purple shade. And I'm going to pop that in the inner and outer corner of my lid and in my crease and try and get this look to be somewhat smoky. But I don't think it's going to happen. And then I'm going to pop a little bit of my concealer on my lid just to do sort of a cut crease, remove the purple, ready for the next shade. And then the next shade I am going into is this turquoisey blue shade. I am praying this shade works and is pigmented, because so far none of the others really have been that pigmented, and it's kind of gutting. So I'm going to pop that on the concealed area, and oh, it's actually quite pigmented, and I really like the shine on this shade. So yeah, you know, it's one shade that actually works in this palette. So I'm going to pop the gold shade along my lower lash line, just to bring in the gold and that element of royalty, because she was a princess. And then I'm going to apply liner and mascara off camera, along with lipstick and lip gloss, and there you go, both looks done. So, I've applied liner and mascara off camera, and I've also applied lipstick and lip gloss. The lipstick is Revolution Bullet Lipstick in the shade CHAFFUER, which is this one. And the lip gloss is Revolution Lip Gloss in the shade 01, which is this one. So, the review on the Mermaid palette. I do like the shades in this palette. I also like the packaging, I like the shape of it. I like the fact that they've included a cute illustration of Ariel on the front. However, I'm not overly keen on the name of the palette. Not overly keen on a vibe with the tide, but you know, you can't always win on that. So, opening it up, if I can. I like that the eyeshadow are in the shape of shells. However, they're not as big as what are in the Aladdin palette, and I think if we lost that unique shape of the shadows, then you could have bigger shadows and more product. But again, oh well, you can't win. This shade in particular is similar to that of Stormborn from the Urban Decay Game of Thrones palette, and it's also similar to the shade Dead Dream from the Aladdin palette. So many of the shades in this palette are very similar to that in the Aladdin palette, so it was really difficult to create a completely different look to the look I did with the Aladdin palette for you guys. Also, they're not as pigmented as what is in the Aladdin palette, and not as pigmented as I expected. In the pan, they look so more pigmented than what they do on your skin, which is a massive letdown because I really thought by looking at this palette it would be so pigmented because of how pigmented they look in the pan. This shade in particular is actually the most pigmented I used, and I thought it wasn't going to be that pigmented just because of the iridescence of it. So that was a surprise. Also, the kickback in the pan is unreal. I mean, I know it's a cheap palette, and I know I shouldn't expect much from it, but I thought I was going to get a little bit more than what I did. It's not a bad palette if you like Disney, and if you are a Disney fan, then both palettes are for you. I mean, there are some shades in this palette I don't have in my everyday makeup, like the blue tones. So, I mean, if there are shades that you don't have in your makeup that are in this palette, then by all means buy it, but I personally wouldn't recommend it. Purely on the kickback, the fallout, the shadows aren't very big, they're not very pigmented. So yeah, I mean, you know, this one retails for £8. And like I say, if you're a Disney fan or you haven't got some of the shades in your makeup, then by all means buy it. But other than that, I wouldn't recommend this one. Back to the Aladdin palette, I can only fault it on fallout. It's super pigmented, doesn't have much kickback, if any. You can just tell by the look I did with the Aladdin palette and the look I did with the Mermaid palette, the difference in pigmentation is entirely different. So yeah, out of the two palettes, I would recommend the Aladdin palette over the Little Mermaid one. So yeah, I mean, that's just my opinion. You guys might think differently, and I might have been applying it wrong. But yeah, that's just my opinion on it. So guys, that is it for this video. Please don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe. I am here every week with new content. If you want to see more of these types of videos, then comment down below or message me on social media, whichever one suits you. All social media will be listed down below like normal, along with all of the products I used in this video, including face makeup, including makeup that I applied off camera, this, that and the other. And I shall see you next week in another video. Bye guys!